welcome to the Badass Breastfeeding Podcast. This is Dianne, your lactation consultant.
And I'm Abby, the badass breastfeeder. And today's episode is brought to you by Sheila Darling Coaching. Sheila Darling is a social worker, a certified hypnotherapist, and a mindfulness meditation teacher, and could be your start to a more peaceful life. And today's episode is also brought to you by Fairhaven Health. The Milky's Nipple Nurture Balm is your organic and lanolin-free answer to sore or cracked nipples. We'll hear more from our sponsors later, but these sponsors make this podcast possible. So please head to badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com and check out our sponsor page there if you need anything. See if you can give any of our sponsors your business. While you're there, scroll down and enter your email address and get episodes sent straight to your inbox every Monday when our episodes publish. And now Dianne has our review of the week.
It comes off of iTunes, which obviously I can find, but Abby can't find, but that's okay.
I have a real hard time finding iTunes. I don't know why. Everybody's got this. Everybody's in on this secret. I'm like, where's iTunes?
Oh, gosh. But this comes from Cat. Hope I said that right. And she cannot stop listening to us, which I think is so fun. So she said, I stumbled across this podcast a few days ago. Actually, the first podcast that I ever listened to when trying to find more information on co-sleeping and bed sharing. These ladies are amazing. I'm just binging the channel now and I can't stop listening. Love it. And if you want to find, I know, thank you so much. If you want to find information on co-sleeping and bed sharing, we are definitely the ones for that. So
yeah, we have a lot of episodes on that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And I'm honored we're your first podcast. That's fun.
That is cool. Yeah.
It's awesome.
I honestly don't listen to podcasts. I've listened to like a couple of podcasts, but like people that listen to podcasts are like podcast people. They like listen to a million of them.
Yeah. People just all the time. I know people that do that all the time.
And I guess once you're in, you're like hooked.
Yeah.
So, but we're so honored to be on your list of podcasts.
I know. That's so cool. Well, thank you so much. And it said that was on iTunes. You can send us an email, badassbreastfeedingpodcast@gmail.com, or you can put your reviews on iTunes and we'd love to get them. So thank you so much. Today we have a fun podcast though.
We do. We love myths.
We do.
And there's a lot of them around pumping, although there's so many around breastfeeding that we usually focus on that, but we're going to focus specifically on pumping today.
Yeah, I had a bunch. I wrote them down. I hope I could read my own writing because they were good. And I was like scribbling as I was going along, like, listen, like thinking of stuff, trying to write them down before my feeble mind just forgets one from the other. But I have a bunch. So I don't know, like, how should we do it?
Just jump in.
Jump in.
I only have a couple. So I think you have more than me. So why don't you do two and then I'll do one and then you do two and then I'll do one?
Okay. So my first one is, this is a biggie, that pumping equals no breastfeeding because the milk is gone.
Oh, yeah. Like you
hear that
your
a lot.
breast.
Yep.
Like I pumped and so now I took it all out. So it's empty. So now baby has nothing to eat.
So I have to give baby the bottle that I just pumped.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Hear it all the time. And that is totally not the truth. It's not true. Pumping is so psychological and so visual, right? Like breastfeeding is not visual like that. And pumping is so visual, like you see what's going into that bottle. So you're like, okay, this must, and then when nothing is coming out anymore, you automatically assume it's just gone, right? Like you got it all, but you didn't. And your baby is your baby. So if they latch, they're getting those hormones, they're connecting with you in a different way than your pump does, and they can bring your milk down. So if your baby needs to eat after you pumped, you can just put your baby on. It's totally fine. Your milk is going to let down for your baby, and your breast is never empty anyway. So there's always still going to be milk there for your baby.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. Your breast is never empty. You can't just it's not just like, oh, you finished this glass and it's empty. There's nothing in there anymore. Like your breast is never just completely empty.
Mm-mm. I mean, a pump can't get more milk out at some point, right? Because they're just not.
A pump. It's just a machine.
Yeah, it's just a machine. They're not efficient. Even the best of pumps, you could say, I've got the best top of the line pump. It's still not going to get all the milk. It's just not.
Yeah, it can get enough that you need for working or whatever, but it doesn't empty it.
No. So you can always feel comfortable that if you pumped, like, and I hear this a lot, like, oh, the baby was taking a nap, so I thought it was a good time to pump. And then like half an hour later, they woke up, so I had to give him the bottle because I had just pumped. Like you could just breastfeed them. And the other thing to remember with that is supply and demand, right? That's how we do breastfeeding. That's how we do how we make milk, is by telling your body we need the milk. So if you pumped and then you latch your baby, or vice versa, that is basically more stimulation, which tells your body we need more milk. So you're actually doing positive things there if you just feed your baby.
Feed your baby whenever. It's never a bad time.
Never a bad time. So yeah, that's my number one.
Oh, that's a good one.
All right. Next one is waiting between pumps because that gives you more milk. Have you ever heard that one?
Oh, yes. Like I just pumped an hour ago, so there's not enough milk in there to pump.
So I'm going to wait 6 hours because I'll get more.
Oh, yeah. Right.
You know,
there's a few issues with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I've heard that one quite a bit too, where people are like, well, I could pump every 2 hours at work, but I really get more if I just pump, twice a day instead, because then I go 4 or 5 hours in between, and then that's more milk. It's very deceiving.
Fuller or whatever. Yeah.
You're fuller. It's very deceiving. The more you empty the breast, not empty, but the more you stimulate that supply, the more milk your body's going to make. So even if you're getting half an ounce every 2 hours, that is way better than getting 5 ounces once a day. Do you know does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So more frequently that you're pumping and breastfeeding, the more your body's going to get that signal to make more milk.
Exactly.
If you're only doing it, if you slow it down, then your body will it'll be like, oh, okay, well, this milk isn't being taken out, so it must not be needed. So I'm going to slow down production.
Exactly. But it doesn't work like that. And like I said, it's so visual that our mind thinks, oh, okay, we're getting more if we wait longer. So we should wait longer. That way we can get more. But that's not as good for your supply.
Right. So you want to be frequently pumping, frequently nursing. You don't have to spaz out and be like pumping every half an hour. Just don't like wait. Don't, in your mind, you think like, well, the fuller my breasts are, the more milk will come out. And like, while that's true, like you're going to see more milk in the bottle than you would, more frequently, that your body is not going to be producing as much.
But the fuller you get like that, and the longer you let that go, like Abby was saying, the more your body's going to go, oh, we don't need this milk as much. We're going to start to decline. And your body's just not going to, it's going to stop making it when we need it.
Yeah.
So frequent is better. Do more frequent stuff. More frequent feeds, more frequent pumping for your supply.
Like if you're away from your baby during the day, you probably don't want to go more than like 2 or 3 hours?
Yeah. Yeah, if you can. I mean, there are some people, unfortunately, they go back to jobs that make it very, very hard to pump.
Where they're not, they don't, right.
But I mean, an ideal world, like 3 hours. Yeah.
Whenever your baby would be nursing is when you want to be pumping.
If you can, absolutely.
Yeah. If you can, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's people like
teachers and
EMTs
nurses
and people that just have jobs where you can't be pumping a lot, but as much as you can.
Yeah, as much as you can.
All right. Cool.
My first two. What do you got?
All right. Well, so I have the big one that we always talk about, and then I always think like, well, we talked about this so everybody knows. But then I get messages about it all the time. So we don't know this. And I feel like this is a tricky one too, because it makes sense that this is a myth. To me, this one makes sense. So your pumping output does not equal your milk supply. So I pumped, I can only pump, 1 ounce out of this breast. So therefore I'm not making enough milk for my baby. But what you pump does not equal what is in your breast, for reasons that we talked about earlier, is that your pump is not as efficient as your baby.
Right.
But it makes sense to me that obviously people think this, because if you just don't know that particular fact about pumps, then of course you're going to think, well, this is what I pumped, so therefore that's what's in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it makes sense that people would think this. And then of course that it would make you very nervous. But there's a few things. First of all, pumping also it's not effective, but also we're not taught how to do it. We're not taught like that. There's not just one size of flange. Like, I was the badass breastfeeder for a while before I actually knew that.
Yeah.
I did not know that flanges came in different sizes, and that if it was too big or too small, you might not be able to pump as much as you may otherwise. And that people just respond differently to pumps. Some people respond really well and some people don't.
Yes.
And then there's things like hands-on pumping, the combination of breast compression and breast massage in order to increase milk output while you're pumping. We're not taught that. We have to really like stumble upon that information in order to know that.
They just kind of like, if you're lucky, you might get handed a pump at some point and people be like, okay, here it is. Here you go. Start pumping.
Yeah, just turn it on.
Turn it on and start pumping.
Stick your nipple in there and then turn it on and, it'll be fine. But then that's not how it works. Sometimes people are really lucky and that milk just starts coming out and, they don't run into any problems. But a lot of times people are milk's not just coming out because it's not suckling on your breast the way that your baby does. Like, it cannot mimic that action that can really just, your baby can get out as much as they need. But a pump is not pumping the same. It's not doing that same action.
No, it's not. And it doesn't have the hormones, and it's very, usually you're pumping under a circumstance that is not relaxing. It's a very different process. And I meet people all the time who say, oh, I didn't, I must not be making enough because I'm only pumping an ounce. Or, oh my gosh, I hear this all the time. People will say to me, well, my pediatrician said to pump for 24 hours and see what the baby's getting.
Oh, yeah.
Like for a baby that's not gaining well or something like that. They told me to pump for 24 hours so I can see what I'm making. That does not tell you what you're making.
At all.
It is so discouraging to hear that still.
Right. And stop breastfeeding so that you can see how much your baby gets when you're breastfeeding.
It's ridiculous.
What? Oh my
advice.
God. What a mind snarl. I mean, like, oh my God. It's such a it just drives, no wonder people are being driven crazy.
I know.
It's so hard to figure out. And pumping, oh my God. Pumping is just hard. Pumping is really, really hard. Like the action and logistics of it and just the whole lifestyle around it. And, you've got this big pump that you got to carry around and then you got to hook yourself up to it. And like the whole thing around it is just not natural at all. It's uncomfortable for most people. It's like, you have to learn it, but nobody teaches it. It's so hard. And if you're struggling and you can't figure it out, whatever, you are just not alone. You are a completely normal person.
And you're like dependent on this thing.
Yeah.
To leave milk for your baby.
Yeah.
Like that's panicky.
It is. It is. And we actually have a episode like tips to pump more milk or how to pump more milk, where you can, where we talk about more in detail about the art of pumping and how to use your pump better and things like breast compressions and stuff like that. So that's in the show notes.
Yeah. So that's not what we're talking about today. Today is all the garbage that you hear.
All the stuff that you hear that you can leave and that you can flush.
Yeah.
So that was mine.
So I get to go next.
You get to go.
Okay. Milk can look different even on the same day.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that I remember, so when I had my first baby and was breastfeeding, and my mom was not a breastfeeder, so she really didn't know what to do with it or anything. And the first time I pumped, remember I put the milk in the refrigerator, and we were living with them at the time because we had just moved back to Rochester. So we were staying there, and Nathan was like, I don't know, 2 months old or something. And I put milk in the fridge, and my mother was like, I don't think this milk is any good. This milk is bad because, it separates.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah.
So look, and the when I say it separates, if you've never seen human milk after it's been sitting, it will separate and the fat will rise to the top, and then the other milk is on the bottom. The other milk, the milk that's not super fatty is on the bottom. So it does separate, and it can look strange if you're not used to looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I don't think this milk is any good. And of course, me being the person that I am, I have to just counter everything that she says with, and I was like, it's fine. And I had no idea if it was fine because I really had no clue at all. But I was like, if you're going to say it's not fine, I'm just going to tell you that it's fine. And of course it was. But you could pump milk on the same day, 2 different times of the day, and it'll look completely different. And that is okay. There's nothing wrong with that milk.
And
It's
sometimes
normal.
it can be green or pink.
Right.
Or like really weird colors. And these are things that people wouldn't even have known.
No, you would never know.
If pumps hadn't been invented or you weren't pumping or whatever, you'd be like, oh my God, how many times on like Facebook is there like, I go to the like, the where people can post and there's just like a bottle of pink milk.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, oh my God, what's wrong with my milk?
Or like what's really cool is have you seen those ones where if somebody's sick, they'll put a picture of like the milk that they pumped when they weren't sick and then the milk they pumped when they were sick and how different it looks.
And how much thicker and like darker, sometimes even orangier even than it looks when you're sick because your body's producing all those antibodies and really hopping it up with like nutrients.
I know, it's really cool. But it's like sometimes it's super thick with more fat in it, and then some at times of the day it might not be. It might be a little thinner, but then people go, oh, is it okay? It's not as fat. Or what I love, somebody said to me one time, my husband said the milk didn't look fatty enough.
Oh, yeah.
Did your husband pump that milk? Because tell him to shut up.
Right. Well, that's the thing we freak out about too, is that our milk's not fatty enough, or doctors say you're not getting enough. The baby's not getting enough fat. And then like your friend pumps milk and you saw it and the fat on top was like half an inch thick. That you're like, oh my God, my milk doesn't look like that.
It's not supposed to.
But it doesn't need to. Whatever comes out of your body is perfect. Whatever color it is, however thick the fat on top becomes, it's specifically made for your baby.
Yeah. And it's going to be different all the time.
And sometimes affected by what you eat, or if you have like a little like blood in there, it will turn it pink. It's fine to give it to your baby.
Totally okay.
You do not have to throw it away. Please do not throw it away.
Totally
That's all
okay.
Stuff that your baby's designed to eat.
Yes. So no matter what it looks like when you pump it, it's fine. Don't ever question it. It's not going to come out of your breast spoiled. I don't know why anybody thinks that.
I know. It's like impossible. It's the best way. It's the best way to like give your baby the freshest food that's never spoiled.
I know. I don't know. I can't even wrap my head around that.
And well, let's talk more about this after a word from our sponsors. How about?
Okay.
Today's episode is brought to you by Sheila Darling Coaching. The transition to parenthood can be intense. Feelings of anxiety and depression are actually quite common. Your feelings should not be ignored. You deserve space where you can process this transition and all of the emotional and psychological changes that come with it. You may hear people telling you to just enjoy it, or it all goes by so fast. These statements are dismissive of the changes we go through when we have a new baby. Transitioning to a new family member isn't always the peaceful journey we see on TV. Sheila Darling Coaching can be that professional support person that Dianne and I are always saying there is no shame in getting. Sheila Darling is a social worker, certified hypnotherapist, and mindfulness meditation teacher, and could be your start to a more peaceful life. Head to SheilaDarling.com to schedule your consultation today and mention this podcast when scheduling your consultation and receive 10% off a coaching package. And today's episode is also brought to you by Fairhaven Health. If you are struggling with sore nipples, you need pain relief fast. And when sore nipples turn to cracked nipples, forget about it. It's enough to want to call it quits. Damaged nipples can cause real problems with successfully breastfeeding your baby. Check with a lactation consultant to make sure that your baby is getting a good latch, and get some Milky's Nipple Nurture Balm. Nipple Nurture Balm is formulated to soothe, protect, and heal sore or cracked nipples. This nipple balm is made with organic herbal ingredients and combined with natural moisturizers to help provide relief and to heal affected areas and even prevent cracks from reappearing. Nurture Nipple Balm alleviates the discomfort so the joy can be restored to your special bonding time. It is safe for both parent and baby, and there is no need to wipe it off before breastfeeding. Head to fairhavenhealth.com, that's FAIRHAVEN health.com, and use promo code BADASS for 15% off of your purchase. And our sponsors and these promo codes can be found in our show notes under this episode at badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com. And our show notes also include further information about things we talked about in this episode. And you can find our breastfeeding resources, all of our other episodes, and information about scheduling your very own one-on-one online lactation consultation with Dianne. And now back to pumping myths.
Do you want to go next?
Yeah, well, I was going to say some more too about I don't know if this was on. Well, I'll say it. Let me note and I'll say it then. Or we could talk. Are we going to talk about storage stuff? Just because with the we were talking about how it never spoils and how it's always fresh out of your breast. But what about pumping? But it's not going to spoil after you pump it either.
No.
You'd really have to forget about that shit in your bag for a month.
I know.
For that to be, people are like, oh my God, it was on the counter for 6 hours. It's not supposed to be on the counter for that long. Yeah.
It's okay.
It's fine.
It's okay.
It's
totally
great.
Okay.
Do not throw that milk away.
One of the cool things with human milk is that there is live white blood cells in it, which actually kill the bacteria. So they have researched milk, or they've looked at milk that has been sitting out versus milk that has just been pumped. And they've seen that the milk that's been sitting out actually has less bacteria in it than the milk that's been pumped because the white blood cells kill it. So it's not growing.
Yeah, it's not growing mold
while it's sitting out. Yeah, it's just not.
It's not like the milk from the cow in the carton.
No.
That you have in your refrigerator next to it, maybe. That shit will go bad.
Yeah, but this is different.
This is totally different. So my other one is, I keep saying that it's related, but it's all related. We're talking about pumping today. So it's all related. It's all pump milk. But what is, and I'll tell you right now, I do not know the science. I do not know details behind the science behind this. I've read it, and every time I read it, it makes me so angry because I'm like, this is hard enough. Parenting and pumping is hard enough. Now we've got this nonsense going around. So have you heard, the whole once you pump the milk and it separates, so now it's separated, right? And so you want to mix it again. You want to swirl it very carefully and not shake it too much because it will damage the milk.
I did. Yeah. When I was first coming into the whole lactation world and learning, that was the theory. That if you shake it, you will break the long-term or the long-chain fatty acids. The long-chain fatty acids that are in the milk, you can damage them if you shake it too much. And then new research came out that was like, what the F is that? That's not a thing.
Yeah, so you will still hear this. You'll see, you'll hear this so now you pumped it. You went through all of that trouble of pumping it. You went through all the trouble of storing it, defrosting it maybe, giving it to a caregiver maybe. And now you got to make sure, you got to stress out about, mixing this milk together carefully so that you don't damage it. Like it's china or, some delicate crystal or something.
Right.
Swirl it in the bottle. Don't shake it. I don't know. Don't drop it, I guess, because that's kind of like shaking it. So then if you do that, you got to throw it away or whatever. I don't know. It's bad. Oh, my God. Stop. And when I hear shit like that, I'm just like, oh, my God, I can't even take it anymore.
It's not that hard.
It is too much. This is too much. Do not start telling me the details of things that I need. Now I need to start carrying it some ancient artifact. No, man, just mix that milk. It's fine. Feed it to your baby.
Let's totally fine.
We've got to move on. We've got to stop with all of these things that make everything so hard and stressful. I don't know about everybody else, but that stuff really stresses me out.
Yeah, I can't deal with that. And I have one that goes kind of along with that too, with
Good.
The whole stressing me out with the pumping and everything. And that is And if you do this, if you are listening and you do this, I am absolutely not saying that this is wrong. I am not saying that this is something you shouldn't be doing. I'm just saying it's not necessary. And that is giving your pumped milk at the exact same time that you pump it.
Oh my God. Yes.
Or I can only give nighttime milk, pumped nighttime milk at night. Or I can only give pumped daytime milk during the daytime. My baby's getting a bottle during the day, so I can only give them the milk that I pumped during the day. I can't give them the milk I pumped in the evening.
That's stressing me out right now.
Stop doing that. And you can read that. Sometimes people will say, oh, it's best, because it is true that your milk changes depending on the time of day, depending on what's going on. Nighttime milk is higher in melatonin. Yes, this stuff is all really true. But please do not make yourself crazy by trying to pump the exact same time that your baby's going to get a bottle, or by only giving milk at certain times of day because that's when you think they should be getting it. It's okay. Give them the milk that you pumped whenever you want to. Pump it, put it in the freezer, put a date on it, use it before it gets old. That's all we got to say about it. Like, it does not have to be certain times. It doesn't have to be anything like that. Like, mothering is hard enough. Parenting is hard. If you have to start balancing what time you're giving your baby a bottle based on what time you pump, it just is too hard. That's too much to even consider.
No, and it's not even better. Like, there's not enough of a difference there of what's happening to make a difference. Like, your baby is getting breast milk. Like, that is what is making the impact on their long-term health. That's what it is. Not that like they got, 2 a.m. milk at 2 p.m.
Right.
No,
exactly.
That's not that's not what is making the difference.
So don't worry about that stuff. All those little things. And it irritates me so much when I read and, read that online or read in people's blogs that, this is what you should be doing. Or I know. It's better if you give your baby this milk at night because this is what they're getting. No, just give your baby the milk. It's fine.
I do feel like a lot of this stuff comes up because people want content for their blogs. I feel like a lot of these myths and stuff like that get circulated still so that there is content, because there is no, it's harder to it's content. And a lot of times you see these on these formula pages or these big pumping pages. Mm-hmm. Here's what you need to do. And then there's a big long list of things that you need to do. And because they want clicks on their blog.
Right.
And all it does is create confusion and stress, and it's not even the correct information.
It's not.
Or they want to sell, or it's wrapped around some sort of marketing, marketing ploy that they've got. This bottle, this bottle does this. And then you're supposed to do this with your pump. And so here's this part that you can buy, or this something or other that you can buy that will help you do it. Well, it's not, no. You don't need to do any of that.
Yeah. So be careful what you read.
Yeah. If you didn't hear it here, it's not right.
No, it's not right. I think we've said that before. If it's not on one of our blogs, do not pay attention to it. Okay. Yeah. Next one is that it shouldn't hurt. Pumping should not hurt. Please don't hook yourself up to a pump and turn it on as high as it will go.
Oh my God. Yeah. People do that.
I do see that a lot. It should not be painful to pump. It shouldn't be, pinchy. Just like breastfeeding, it shouldn't be uncomfortable. And if it is, like Abby was saying earlier, we were never taught flanges are sized. It could be that we need a different flange. It could be that you need a different size flange, a different type of flange. The other thing that kills me about the pumps is that they're made as if every single human is built the same.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's we're not.
Well, this is the other thing. The other reason why pumps just do not function across the board, in the same way from person to person. There's so many reasons for that. And the fact that we're all built different, that's another reason.
Mm-hmm. So if it is painful, then we need to find out why, just like with breastfeeding. If it's painful, and sometimes maybe you'll pump once or twice and you'll be like, all right, it's okay, I can tolerate it. But then you need to start pumping at work and you're pumping 4 times a day now. Like that might get uncomfortable really quickly. So we can't just keep going on with that. I've seen a lot of breastfeeders with damaged tissue on their nipples and stuff. Like people sometimes will come to me with with damage to their breast. And I'm like, that's a pumping thing, and all along thinking that it's a breastfeed, their baby's like not latched well or something. It's like, no, that's a pumping thing. So make sure it's comfortable. If you feel comfortable, make sure it does not hurt. It's not pinchy. It's not uncomfortable.
Well, and milk is not going to come out if you're hurting.
Or not as much anyway.
It's not going to let down. You can't have a letdown if you're all tense and in pain.
Right. So yeah, so we don't want it to be painful for you. And then that kind of goes with some just don't respond well to a pump. Right?
Yep.
Some parents just don't respond well to a pump. And that doesn't mean there's something wrong with you.
And it also doesn't mean that you can't keep up working and you providing breast milk to your baby. There's ways, and there's there's ways of learning how to express more milk while you're pumping, with the hands-on pumping. And also on the other side of that, what I always talk about, what I couple that with always is paced bottle feeding.
Yes.
Is because this is another thing that goes along with pumping is that we are not taught how to use a bottle. We're not taught how to pump, and we are not taught how to use a bottle. And this is what we always do. And you always see it in the movies or the TV, a baby laying flat on their back with a bottle shoved in their mouth.
And nobody taking the bottle out. They're just leaving it there.
Yeah, they just leave it there and they have their big conversation or, doze off or whatever. And the baby has no choice. Sucking and swallowing is this reflex to your baby. So if there's a full bottle, they're going to have to suck and swallow that bottle until it's empty because they've got no other choice in the matter. They can't be like, oh, I'm done, I'm full. This is a baby. They can't do anything except suck and swallow. So it's going to, and then you're going to go, oh, well, they're still hungry because they finished that bottle. So, oh my gosh, I better get another bottle and feed them another bottle because they're still sucking and swallowing. So they must still be hungry. No, they just don't have a choice.
Right.
And so, yeah, so you want to pace bottle feeding. You want to put your baby in a more upright position. And you want to just be filling that nipple. And this is the other thing. I actually did a paced bottle feeding. No, I was talking about paced bottle feeding on a Facebook Live the other day. And I got this question I always get, and I forgot to talk about it in the video. And I always want to say this because people see, when you see paced bottle feeding happening, you see the bottle is horizontal, right? It's horizontal to the ground. And you fill the nipple up with the milk and then let the baby suck there for a little while. And then you leave the bottle in the mouth, but you tip the bottle so that the milk leaves the nipple for a little while and let the baby continue to kind of suckle on that so that the milk settles in their belly and whatever. So they're not just eating super fast. Well, then I get this question. Well, but aren't they swallowing air? Isn't that bad?
I heard that too. Yeah, I've heard that.
We all swallow air. That's why we burp and fart. Your body is made to deal with the air that you swallow. That myth was created by bottle manufacturers to get you to buy a certain kind of bottle. Oh, our bottle, baby, swallows less air. No. That is a marketing ploy, and there is no truth to that. You do not need to worry about that. Burp your freaking baby. And when they're in an upright position, they're more likely to just that'll just come out more easily anyway. Just like you when you're eating. So I forgot to say that. And I always get that, because I always get that question, but aren't they swallowing air?
Yeah, I get that a lot too.
And that is that's one of those other things that piss me off because it comes directly from bottle manufacturers. They made that up to try to sell you that bottle where baby swallows less air.
It has all the parts to it.
Yeah, I don't even know.
It's ridiculous.
I'm not even looking into it because no, that's not a thing. Paced bottle feeding is the best way to feed your baby, and you do not need to worry about the whole empty nipple thing, that they're suckling on for a minute. That's actually helping them, to eat slower and to not, spit up or get fussy because they've overeaten too quickly or, all those things.
Right. The benefit is way better.
And the swallowing the air thing is just a normal way of life. That's going to happen the rest of your life. We all swallow air. We're all fine.
They swallow air when they cry too.
Yeah. Right.
So what are you going to do about that?
There's no way you can avoid swallowing air in your life. That's why literally why you burp and fart.
I mean, oh my God. All right. I have one more.
Oh, okay.
One more. And that is that you're going to like pumping.
You're going to what?
Like pumping.
Oh,
I hear this all the time. Like in
said that?
prenatal classes, people can't wait to pump. I have people that come to prenatal breastfeeding classes, don't give a shit about any of the breastfeeding information, just want to know about pumping. That's where their biggest questions are. Pumping. Well, I'm going to want somebody else to give a bottle. I want my partner to help. I want to, go back to work. I want to be able to go. And yes, we want all those things for you. If that is what your breastfeeding relationship looks like, that is what we want for you. But don't be in a hurry to do this because you're probably not going to like it. And I think everybody just figures, oh, it's just the same thing. I'll just pump and that's it.
Yeah.
And it'll be fine.
Yeah. And pumps and bottles are so normalized in our culture that as soon as somebody gets pregnant, that's like a gift. That's like, oh, here's a pump. You're going to need a pump.
Yeah.
Well, what? Actually, you do not need a pump unless you are spending time away from your baby and they need to eat while you're not there. That is the only reason you need a pump. You do not need a pump in order to successfully breastfeed.
No.
It's not a thing.
You don't. And people do think, well, when do I start pumping to help my supply?
Exactly.
Like you never need one.
No.
If you don't need to leave milk for your baby, you don't need to have it. But we have this concept that pumping is going to be great. It's going to be great because I can leave a bottle.
Yes, right. And they want to do it immediately.
Yeah.
Like in the hospital. Should I start pumping? If you want too much milk.
Right.
If you want to oversupply, maybe.
Like,
no.
Just relax. Sit on your couch with your baby and don't worry about it.
Yeah, you don't need to worry about that right now. No, and you'll even hear that in the hospital too. You just start pumping, you can breastfeed and then pump.
No.
You don't need it.
Give yourself some time. And then after these babies are born, you hear people say, "Oh my God, when can I stop pumping?"
Oh,
I
yeah.
hate it.
I know. I'm always so excited to tell people when they can stop pumping.
I know.
They're like, it's been a year. Can I stop pumping? I'm like, yes!
Please do.
Yes, you can stop now. That's like the best news. I love giving that.
They have like ceremonies over putting their pump away. Like people cannot wait. And those are the same people that couldn't wait to start. It's like, it is not, it is not an enjoyable experience to pump. It's just not. And I guess that's something you can't realize until you're actually doing it. But like you said, we've normalized it so much that it's just like something that you assume you're going to have to do once you have a baby. And it's
that's just part of it. Just like anything else is what we think. But no, it's not needed.
So those are my myths.
All right. Well, thanks.
Yeah. Fun. And if anybody has anything else, share.
Oh, yeah.
We'd love to hear it. Mm-hmm.
And thanks for listening.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.